Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to another edition of the movie review series. And we are joined once again with the one and only, the badass himself, Rex the Boss 11. How are you doing, brother?
I am doing very well, thank you. Hey guys, how's it going? Let's talk about Aquaman.
Okay, Aquaman is a DCEU movie that came out in 2018, over 5 years ago. Wow, this time's gone so fast. So, Aquaman, this is essentially the first big screen live action debut of Aquaman. So, Rex, we're going to start with you first. What was your thoughts on Aquaman getting his own movie for the big screen? We'll start with you first.
I mean, I have to say, obviously, and this is going to be quite a common response because I think a lot of people, you remember what you remember from the Aquaman that you remember, and then
Yes.
you've seen this Aquaman.
Yes.
So, we'd been told, and then obviously with the Justice League and the Batman and Superman stuff that we'd seen, Wonder Woman stuff that we'd seen uncovered by Bruce Wayne, you'd got to see, oh, this is a very different version of Aquaman. And obviously, even in the Injustice games and stuff like that, you'd started to see that they really wanted to, let's just say, darken up Aquaman. They wasn't trying to blacken him up like they have done with other characters, but they was trying to darken him up. It wasn't necessarily a thing of color. This wasn't, or ethnicity. This was more of the character seemed quite weak, and there was a lot of jokes around him being unable to live on land, like the Family Guy joke where he's like, there's a woman being assaulted. If you've seen that scene, you know what I'm on about. I'm not even going to repeat. It's absolutely ridiculous because we already knew that he was clearly Arthur Curry as well as Aquaman, the king of Atlantis. So obviously a lot of people wanted to see, well, how does he become the king of Atlantis? And obviously this movie here was designed to show you that. But because they'd already introduced him into the DCEU, it was a bit like, well, what's this film going to be? But then obviously I did my research and I realized that this film was probably supposed to come out just before the Justice League movie itself came out. But I think The Flash started to cause issues, and then some of these films were delayed, weren't they? And then other stuff. And it led to the Justice League film having to be brought out before because of the issues between Zack Snyder and DC Warner, and obviously them letting Josh Whedon come in and take over the film. Obviously, all that issue there led to, I think it was the death of his daughter, wasn't it? And
that's when Snyder walked away from the project.
Yeah, and it led to obviously delays in this movie and then subsequently in other movies. But I mean, we've spoke about this before. It made absolutely zero sense that we got the Justice League movie before we got any standalone movies that were featured on characters. Like, it would have made more sense if the Aquaman film that we're about to see in the next few weeks came out first.
Yeah.
Because it would have been like, oh, this is Aquaman fighting against these guys here. Then you would have asked the simple question of, well, how does he become Aquaman? But what they wanted to do is in a very short period of time and in the wrong order, because 5 years is not a very long time when it comes to these types of characters. Mark my words, it is not normally necessary that they would bring out, not every franchise is the Dark Knight.
No.
Every 3 to 4 years, you're going to need a new film to come out. Batman and Superman had been through what they had been through in a 10-year block, and they'd had bad movies. And the success of Batman Begins led to them immediately thinking we need to get a second movie, and they were right to do that.
Yes, they were.
But these characters, and DC and Warner know this more than anyone, these characters should not just be thrown out into the cinematic universes or onto the cinema screen, especially where they've developed these TV things. Because this is, and we'll get into this is the exact point of what purpose did this film have from the moment that you knew that it was going to exist, unless it came out first.
Yeah, correct. Well, I mean, when the news broke out that Aquaman was going to get a movie. I was really surprised because, I've known about Aquaman for many, many years, and I know what he's about. I know who he is, and this was something that I've always wanted to see, but I always knew deep down we'll never get it because, you know, Aquaman has always been the butt of Family Guy jokes, The Simpsons. He's always been a laughing stock. He was never really taken seriously like a Batman or a Superman or Wonder Woman or even the Flash for that matter.
To be fair, they didn't really portray him that well either, because in that Superman and Friends, he wasn't portrayed very well there either. He was portrayed pretty much useless to the rest of the team.
Yeah, he was because my dad always referred to Aquaman as Superman underwater with blonde hair. And, it sounds silly, but that's what he was. Unless there was a mission involving water, Aquaman was pretty much useless.
You know what I mean? Maybe they retcon the character eventually, but it's not true.
No.
So what? He's only got the power. So he's got because you got to assume that he's probably not invincible, but he's got all this strength and all that. So he's only got that when he's in the water. That's not something I remember. He's got the ability to obviously communicate with the sea life. Yes. So that is ability that he can only use in the water. But the fact is if you're going on a mission, how many times in a mission are you going to need someone to use like sea creatures? And this is got their mind confused, which is like, oh, well, he's not Batman where he'll risk his life to do all this other stuff that it'd be like Batman only being able to do what he does in caves. That's the way they trade this. But then when you look at this version of Aquaman, it's nothing like this. He's clearly had this power since he was a kid, clearly got the eyes, and his mind can change, and he's almost invincible. And he can fight against certain things. And yes, he's obviously a stronger character in the water, but the fact that he can live on the outside of the water means he's got one power that all of the other people in Atlantis obviously haven't got. They got that ability taken away from them with the mythological creation of Atlantis, where they were sucked into the sea and they were obviously turned into people who could only breathe underwater. He's obviously he's the Blade of this series, isn't he?
Totally.
He's the Daywalker. He can walk on the land without any help or anything like that. And he's also got the same powers and abilities that any of the godlike creatures that are part of the Atlantean, kingdom. He's got the same thing. But the truthful fact is the way that he was portrayed, you would have known none of that. Like you say, he was just this blonde guy, good-looking blonde guy, who could have some effect if the whole thing was taking place on a boat or in the water or in the ocean.
Yeah. But what happened was with Aquaman, and in the comics, they completely changed him. I think round about the 80s or the 90s, they completely changed him. So he went from being the goofy, good-looking guy with the blonde hair to this very dark, underwater, serpent-like king. They completely changed his look, gave him long hair, big humongous beard, really beefed him up, and he had like this hook for a hand. And I remember when I was starting to get into comic books, I saw Aquaman on the cover of one of these giant annuals I've got, which was kind of like tied into like the 90s style of animation that they were doing for DC at the time. I thought, wow, that's certainly a different Aquaman to the one I'm used to seeing. And he wasn't portrayed as a heroic figure. He was more like a villain. And when the Justice League animated series came out in the 2000s, and they did an episode called The Enemy Below, I think it was called, and Aquaman made his appearance, he was not a friendly guy. He was quite evil, quite dark, and they did introduce him in Superman the animated series, but he still looked like
in the original comics, apparently he was always portrayed as like a jealous of like Bruce Wayne.
I don't remember that.
Bruce, obviously Batman had more swing than him, but he was Batman with powers.
I don't remember that. I always remembered Aquaman was the one that I remember in the more recent years, going, back to what I was saying. He wasn't what you would call a team player. It's not like in the old Super Friends or the old comics of the 60s where Aquaman helps him out and he becomes friends with him, and Superman would say,
days there, he always had an element of where he was part of the team and he was accepted as part of the team. Although the way that we as the audience seen him was a bit of a joke and like,
Yeah.
how effective are you? Yeah. But there was also in the comics, I'm sure there was a bit of either a competitive sort of rivalry with Bruce, or there was like an outright jealousy, seeing as both characters were sort of portrayed as rich kids. Because there's the same thing with Oliver as well, the Arrow.
Yeah, I was just
There
about
was
to
an
say
element
that.
of like these were the same characters but just differently balanced. But Arrow and Batman would get more respect than say Aquaman would. But
Yeah.
Aquaman was actually a powered character. So it was like, is no one seeing this? But then once again, what is your special power? And this is where the butts of the joke would come from.
Hmm.
Well, this guy can fling arrows and he's got an absolutely bullseye shot. This guy can talk to fish.
The thing with Aquaman, the character in the 2000s animated series, is when Superman asked him to join the Justice League, Aquaman just flat out refused and said, "No, I will not be part of your boys' club," or something like that. There are more bigger battles in the ocean to deal with than joining your club, or something like that. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, because normally, traditionally, every DC character that comes along, yeah, I'll join the Justice League. Yeah, let's all be friends. But with Aquaman, it was like, no, I will not be friends with any of you. I have my kingdom to run. And that was the version I thought, you know what? If they ever did an Aquaman movie one day, I'd like to see that version on the big screen. Obviously, you'd need the right actor to play that character. And of course, as we know over the years, we've seen Aquaman in Smallville, and they did a pretty decent job with him, but he was more portrayed as the Super Friends version of Aquaman, the smiley, good-looking guy with the blonde hair. So we never really got to see the dark, more
Yeah.
meaner version
In
of
Smallville, it
Aquaman.
was like a young version of him, but it was also very much.
But they didn't call him Arthur Curry;
And
they
it
called him
screamed.
AC.
Smallville screamed, what the hell do we do with this character?
Yeah, he wasn't in many episodes. I think he appeared in one episode of season 5. He appeared in one episode in season 6,
Yeah.
and he appeared in a couple in season 8.
And you could kind of see that they were building because he actually got his own series, didn't he?
He was supposed to get his own series, but it got
With that
cancelled
blonde,
after the pilot.
with the blonde kid.
Justin
But as
Hartley
soon as
played him.
people seen what it was going to be, which was going to be some kind of surfing thing with
Yeah.
colorful things, and
Yeah.
once you knew, oh dear. And then they designed the Arrowverse. Well, they didn't design the Arrowverse. They designed to bring out certain programs.
Yes.
It was like, well, this is not going to fit in. Like, to be truthful, and if I'm not wrong, the Aquaman series was supposed to have been the original Arrowverse series. So you think it probably would have ended up being called the Aquaverse, because I'm almost certain that the original DC television universe thing was supposed to have started after Smallville, was supposed to have started with Aquaman.
That's right. But I think the reason why we didn't get that was because I think, going back to what you said already, the whole talking to fish thing, he was portrayed as a
Yeah.
joke, and it was
It was
never really a guy they
a
took
pilot
seriously.
as well.
Yeah.
I think by all means, I don't know if it's ever been released, but I think the pilot was apparently, from what the rumors are, that it was one of them, lock it in a cupboard and don't ever let it out.
I mean, I've seen the trailer to it. I mean, it looked.
It was another thing which was like as well, they just went with the Aquaman character that they knew, whereas in the comic books they had made it very, very clear that Aquaman should only be portrayed as this new version of Arthur Curry, this more badass, I don't take no shit. He was still blonde at the time, yeah.
Yeah, and he had the big beard.
Yeah, he was older as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a lot older.
Older because they wanted to make it obvious that he had been the king of Atlantis for longer than the Justice League as a whole thing had existed.
Well, they never really disclosed how old he was exactly, but it was always implied that he's been around a long time, and he's supposed to be very friendly with Wonder Woman's family.
It was like when they had characters like Martian Manhunter and Aquaman in this modern time, this 52 or whatever. Since then, it's always been sort of like these types of characters are portrayed as we have been around from way before Batman, Superman, these human superheroes, even if they have got abilities, they are all born within the last, like Wonder Woman, for instance, she's got to be 150 years old now.
At least, yeah.
They're portraying her that she was around in the First World War and she was a grown woman.
Yeah.
You got to imagine she must have been born in the late 1800s.
At least.
Because she's what? 20 something, and they don't age the same way we age either, let's be honest. So she could have been 50 by the time that my man Chris Pine, his character stumbles upon Themyscira. He's 30, 27, 26, something like that.
In human age, yeah, he would be.
We both know that she could be 500 then.
Yeah, she probably might be.
Nothing says that when they're filming that original scene where she's diving through and doing the Olympic things and all that. I think they're portraying that took place before like the Olympics was ever a thing.
Yeah. So, the idea of Aquaman getting his own movie when they did announce it, I thought finally, at last. And for me, this was a huge opportunity to just basically shut everyone up and say, look, Aquaman isn't the joke that you've all been led to believe. He is a character. He deserves respect, and I defended him for years.
I was the complete opposite. I was more like, oh fuck, this character's a joke.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? I'm gonna steal something from wrestling right now. I was gonna say this before. Can't book it, don't book it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
It's basically that Vince Russo outlook of if you can't do anything with a character, then don't do anything with the character. Now, that's what I was worried about at first when it came to Aquaman, because I thought, like, is this going to be... And to be fair, once again, and I think I'm going to do this a few times, the film had to be set after the Justice League character had been introduced.
Well, I mean, he was introduced in Batman v Superman, wasn't he?
Well, this is what I'm saying. We got the original teaser scene of the hidden file thing in Batman versus Superman.
And you see him like he broke the camera as well, didn't he?
You see his face and all that type of stuff. So obviously all of this happened before that.
Yes.
So as soon as we've seen that, the Aquaman film should have then subsequently have come right there and then.
Absolutely. Totally.
The next film should have been Aquaman, or one of the next films.
One of them.
The fact that we then got this film after the Justice League, it's like, what's going on?
I know.
What's going on? This is me watching Survivor Series, and then somebody puts on the WrestleMania from before. It's going to be confusing, isn't it? Like, everybody's going to have changed roles and what they're doing and all that. Why am I seeing what happened 6 months ago now?
Yeah, I know.
Unless it's actually blatantly relevant and it's just flashbacks to what took place. Never, ever, I said this about the Arrow series, the flashbacks episodes, looking back now, they're what got me to watch Arrow for the first at least season and a half.
Yeah, totally.
But looking now, subjectively, those episodes should have been exactly what they were. They should have been 2 episodes right at the start of the series. They should have been the original pilot episodes, which they were supposed to be. But they realized once you run out of this footage here, you're then going to have 12 episodes of something that makes no sense to what we've shown already. And then you're going to have some reference to this island when you get to the Deathstroke bits and all that type of stuff. But it's going to be so long between that. So they decided to split them scenes down into, the first 12, 15 episodes, 4 or 5 minutes each to make a 40-minute episode. When you watch all of those cutscenes and you watch season 1's cutscenes, it is basically one episode.
Yeah, more or less.
Second season's cutscenes are the second episode. And I can't remember if it was supposed to be the first and the final episode of the original Arrow series, but they filmed them first, I think, because you can see the way that Oliver looks in them. He looks different, doesn't he? So
he's got longer hair.
Stephen Amell looks different. That they filmed those episodes first. I can't remember where I was reading this or where I heard about this. It might have been when I was doing a bit of research when Stephen Amell was coming into WWE. But I remember reading somewhere that said that, you know, the original 2 episodes were supposed to have been, or one of the original 2 episodes that were filmed were the cutscenes and flashbacks, and the pilot episode was supposed to have been the 40 minutes of the original series, all of the cutscenes all in one go. So you got to see everything that happened with Yao Fei, everything that happened with Deathstroke in the first episode, and that would tease Deathstroke as the main villain. And then you get to see, you know, your usual 12 episodes or whatever took place, him coming back, all that stuff in the first 10 episodes. But even then, like I said, with those types of things and the way that they portray, everything has to be put in the right order. This should have been, half of this movie should have taken place during or before or during the Justice League film.
Yes, it should have been.
If they had so much footage for the Justice League that they knew they could do a part 2, half of the first bit of the Justice League film should have been this. And then whatever the way that they got Flash and so the first half of the Flash movie, the first half of whatever the Cyborg movie was, they should have been, the first 30 minutes should have been 90 minutes of the first Justice League film. And then the next 45 minutes should have been the first half of the Justice League film. Yes. Because it made no sense that this film came after the Justice League film, especially when we had already then gone, right, well, okay, this is a different version of Aquaman. Yes, you're always going to ask that question of, well, how did he become Aquaman? But it wasn't necessary to so quickly go there. I feel that the 2 movies, potentially in the long run, people will look back and think, yeah, the fight with Black Manta and all that in the second movie probably should have come before the origin story. That should have been Momoa's final film as Aquaman, and then pass the mantle on to somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, it did confuse me a little bit. I mean, I was very excited to see Aquaman. I thought, finally, we're getting something different here from DC, but it was confusing because, right, you've already introduced him in Batman v Superman, and you've officially made him part of the Justice League in the Justice League movie. Now we're getting an Aquaman movie when, like you said, we should have really got an Aquaman movie straight after Batman v Superman.
You just thought the same thing I thought, which was once you've seen those little clips from the Batman versus Superman film,
yes,
they are almost like post-credit scenes. Yeah,
they are. Yeah, they are kind of like that.
You thought the same thing that I thought. This is the trailer to what's coming next. I said this to you when we first started speaking. It should have gone Aquaman or Flash first, whichever one, regardless. Cyborg, then you got to realize about all the boxes and all that, and how, which once again, Cyborg's origin story was absolutely crucial to the Justice League film, which another reason why never made any sense, because we didn't get the origin story for Cyborg that made sense that his actual power came from that box.
Yeah, no, it was confusing. I mean, the whole DCEU thing as a cinematic universe is very confusing.
And we will talk about this at a future date, guys. There will be massive discussions between me and Warhawk about the overall, because we did the Arrowverse, but I'm talking about the actual. I think a lot of people just knew from early. Once you knew there was problems with Justice League, it's like, right, everything's gone wrong here. Like, they tried to do the Marvel thing, and once again, those 4 clips that we got to see, or whatever they were, what was it? It was Cyborg,
Flash,
Aquaman, the Flash, and was there one more?
It was Aquaman, Cyborg, Flash, and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, oh yeah, because he has the picture of Wonder Woman, doesn't he?
Yeah, he had the photograph from World War One, and Bruce was like checking out footage of Diana going shopping and going to the bank and things like that, and he could see that Diana, in all those different years of footage, she hadn't aged, and that's when he realized who she was.
Because originally, that was all supposed to be Bruce doing that, yeah? But she was supposed to have had and I can't remember where I think there was something. This was during COVID. I remember listening to this because I watched Justice League during COVID, and it was amazingly confusing the second time that I'd watched it outside of the cinema. Once you take yourself away from the, live action, the explosions, all the special powered moves and all that, once you take yourself out of the cinema and you watch it on normal screen, you start to expose what these films are. And I know that I read somewhere that, you know, because of all the things with Batman, with the Martian Manhunter things in Superman and all that, you were supposed to get the introduction of the Green Lantern Corps, but they chose to put the Wonder Woman clip in there because they scrapped any plans with the Green Lantern Corps. Because, of course, they would have still had to have cast Ryan Reynolds. I can't remember what it was, but he signed something that was, if they ever did a Justice League film within 10 years of filming the thingy film, the Green Lantern film, I think he had it written in his contract that they had to cast him as the Green Lantern member. There was something written in, because like I said, once again, even though they didn't pull the trigger, technically they were planning a Justice League link up from before Marvel started to really go all in with the Avengers stuff. It was only when Avengers became out on the screen that they realized, oh, wait, this is basically the Justice League, or, you know, their version of it. And then that's when they started to really push after, you know, they deny that Man of Steel was part of it. They deny all that, but we know, we kind of see it as different. They tried with Green Lantern. They tried with Man of Steel. Obviously, The Dark Knight Rises was nothing to do with it, but they tried with those two films, definitely.
Yeah, they did. They did try to do that, and ultimately, unfortunately, they failed. But, you know, but it is what it is. So, what was your thoughts on Jason Momoa cast as Aquaman? What was your thoughts on him?
Well, if you're going to toughen up, a character, and you're going to want to portray the character in a way of being somebody who's taken more seriously, they definitely found the right type of person for it, because he's got enough charisma and he's got that wrestler vibe to him, hasn't he? Let's be fair, he's got that, you know, somewhere between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins look to him. It's strange with Momoa because I didn't know too much about him before. Obviously, I knew he was what he was from Game of Thrones, but by that time I hadn't even delved into Game of Thrones, and I think it was after. In fact, you know what? I'm remembering something now, and I'm glad that this was mentioned.
I think I know what you're going to say, but go on.
Game of Thrones, because I wanted to know exactly who Jason Momoa was, and I'm remembering someone mentioned to me, "Oh, well, you know that he's this random," because someone called him a stunt man or a body double, or, like, you know, like an actor that his acting's robotic, but he just looks good at the. And I'm not trying to say this is the names that was mentioned. I'm not trying to say it's from me. I'm saying these are the names that was mentioned. Guys like Channing Tatum, not the greatest of actors, but because they've got a certain type of look about them. And let's be fair, you know, Channing Tatum and Jason Momoa are practically Hollywood's version of Roman Reigns and John Cena.
More or less.
You know what I mean? Like, without them being in Hollywood, they're the 100% acting versions of those two. If they were to play them in films, no one would argue, would they? If Jason Momoa would play Roman Reigns in a film right now, you wouldn't even argue with that. If Channing Tatum was to play John Cena in a wrestling film, you wouldn't even argue with that, would you? Yeah, I mean, like, let's be fair, you wouldn't argue with that. But when I seen this, I know for a fact that that's where I started to be like, well, who is this guy? Apart from the obvious, he's a good-looking, tattooed up, looks like a badass type of guy. You know, what's his actual thing? And I don't know what he'd been in elsewhere, but my only standpoint of this guy was him playing the guy in Game of Thrones. And I thought, you know, hopefully he gets to be more expressive as Aquaman. This was even before the Justice League film came out. Because remember, like I said, once again, this is so confusing to actually say this, but we got to see him play a grown-up version of Aquaman in the Justice League before we got to see him become Aquaman in this film.
Pretty much.
And I'm going to keep, I can't, this has been, like you say, 5 years, over 5 years. I can't get my head around who sitting at that Warner Brothers table. Because the Avengers film came out in 2012. So you already had wasted 5 years. If you wanted to bring out a Justice League film, you should have just done it in 2014.
Yeah, should have done.
Sure, the Avengers was leading on to like their third or fourth film by the time that the Justice League film. So what was they rushing the film for?
I think by the time Justice League had come out in 2017, Marvel were getting ready to release the two-part epic, Infinity War and Endgame.
I'm angry. I'm not going to lie. I'm actually a little bit pissed off. I wasn't before, because this is not a bad movie, and we're going to get into that. It's
Yeah.
not actually a bad movie. And you'd think with this first bit of the recording, you think, oh my God, they think this movie's awful. I think people will listen and think, there'll be comments in the comment section saying, oh, because people don't listen to the whole thing. But no, I actually think that this is a really good film. But it's the structure of where this film stands and why. What is this film?
Well, I first became aware of Jason Momoa, and this will shock you if you don't know already. I first became aware of Jason Momoa when he was very young in Baywatch, Hawaii, many years ago.
Yeah. You know what? There's a channel on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a whole series. You can watch the whole series on YouTube.
No, there's a woman
And
called Alison, and she reviews it. She used to be called Movie Nights, and
I think I remember her.
she reviews Baywatch, but
Yes, I think I
and
remember
Baywatch
her.
Nights. She's not got to Baywatch Hawaii or anything like that yet, but she does reference at times like what comes in the future, like the Jason Momoa and stuff like that, where she's like, oh well, you know, blah 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 blah. She does reference certain things like that. So yeah, I was actually, now you've mentioned it, I was actually aware that he was in.
Now, when Jason Momoa was very young, he had no tattoos, he had no beard or long hair. He looked like a Hawaiian version of Randy Orton.
Yeah, he was a skinhead, wasn't he? Like fair hair, short hair.
Very short hair. He was very tall. He was very well built, but he had no muscle to him. He was quite lean. He was quite skinny, and he was portrayed in that show as, you know, a very good-looking guy, very smooth talking, and an absolute flirt. He would always flirt with the chicks, and
Well,
maybe occasionally get with some.
now, whatever they're taking in Hollywood, I mean, I'd like some of it, but whatever they're taking in
I wouldn't
Hollywood,
mind.
because like, and I'm just gonna point you to one person, Chris Evans, who plays the Human Torch slash Captain America.
Yes.
Look at him in 2015, in like them Civil War and those times there, and look at him when he's playing the Human Torch before he becomes the star that he became. You can see he's like a skinny Justin Bieber, not just Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
He's skinny guy, and it's
Yeah.
all the suit. Yeah, it's all everything else. He's just a
It's
guy
all
with
padding.
good,
It's all padding in this suit.
and even in the early Captain America films. But once he gets down the line a little bit, you can just see, yeah, he's going to be working out and all that. But all of these guys seem to have gone from being mid-20s guys who were really skinny and like lanky sort of guys,
Yeah.
to being early 40s now, 15 years later, and they're all stocky. When they're not in the movies, they're kind of fat, big guys, like what wrestlers look like. You know, you're not toned or anything like that, but like your Elias types of guys.
Yeah.
Big, broad shoulders, bit of fat on them, but still in quite decent shape, you know, the pecs and that. That's what these guys look like all the time. And there's obviously reasons for that. And we all know what the reasons are. Hormones, stuff like that, like, you know, HCG or whatever it's called.
But
HGT or HTG or whatever it's called.
But with
Cough.
Jason Momoa, that was my only impression of that time when I saw him on Baywatch Hawaii. I thought, pretty good looking, generic guy, nothing special here. Then fast forward to 2011 or 12, Game of Thrones had just come out, and I was just starting to get into Game of Thrones, and I remember Count Drogo, the big warrior, and I thought, geez, this guy's a monster. Who is this guy? And then when the credits rolled and it's, you know, tells you who plays what in the cast, and it's a Jason Momoa, I thought, that can't be the same guy from Baywatch Hawaii.
I just thought it was like a random, like, before I seen the name, I thought he was just like a random, like, I'm just going to say Asian or like Middle Eastern, big jacked up guy who had no lang because he had the good body and the tattoos and that.
Yeah, it was all, a lot of it was body paint. A lot of it was body paint.
I just thought, because the wrestling fan in me was looking at him from the perspective of, you know, he's got the great Khali body, the big shoulders, pecs and all that, nice body and that. And I thought, but he didn't
have a lot of dialogue though, did he? He didn't say a lot.
Dialogue, because he's just playing this foreign-speaking warrior that you only get to hear him. And obviously, clearly, he's doing what he's doing. And then, obviously, when you break it down, I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but he's technically playing a man who was married to like a 12-year-old girl. because that's when you break it down from the books to the story.
Yeah.
Drogo marries Daenerys when she's like 12. So whatever you get to see subsequently after that in the series, where she sort of gets ravished for a certain amount of time, and then she sort of takes control of it a bit. And you know, he's weak to her touch apparently, and all this. That's where he falls in love with her and stuff like that.
Because he treats her like crap though.
You look deeply into it from the books, it's like, yeah, but there is still little bits here. So obviously, I still kind of looked at, even when I knew he was going to play Aquaman, I was like, this guy's a wrong un. That was like, I was thinking, man, what if he's a big star? Why is he playing this character for? Like, not talking English, one. But I didn't realize how big that Game of Thrones actually fucking was. I just thinking this fucking fantasy Lord of the Rings bullshit. But through watching him in the first series, I was like, oh my word, this program. What's this feeling I'm getting inside?
It was really good.
What's this feeling I'm getting? That I just want to keep watching this program over and over again. Because I honestly, I'm not even lying. I watched the first 3 episodes just simply to see what this guy's character was in that program.
He was definitely one of the highlights of Game of Thrones for me, without a doubt.
Early series, yeah, definitely.
When I looked up who it was, I thought, are you kidding me? That's the same guy from Baywatch Hawaii? I went, wow, he's changed a lot.
I thought he was a rugby player or something. You know the name? Because of obviously like the sort of New Zealand, Fiji, that sort of name, like the name he's got. I thought he sounds like and he looks like obviously a rugby player.
The thing with him was obviously he's much older now than he was in Baywatch Hawaii, and I see him now walking around with the big long hair and the tattoos and the beard. I thought to myself, and I still say this to this day, I said, this guy looks like Robert Trujillo from Metallica. He looks exactly like Robert Trujillo from Metallica. I just thought, wow. And then when they announced that he's going to be playing Aquaman and then eventually he'll get his own movie, I thought, okay, so you're giving Aquaman his own movie. I thought, okay, this could be good because we're not going with that. As we said at the beginning.
A controversial statement, but looking back now, because I've seen them both play these characters, I do think, weirdly enough, that him and The Rock could have switched roles with Aquaman and Black Adam. Because, do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Can you feel where I'm coming from?
Yeah, of course.
Even though to be fair, in this film, Momoa does show some really comedic and really entertaining sides to himself. And from what I know now in real life, this guy is the life of the party. He's playing in Fast 10.
Yeah.
It's very much a character that he is like in real life, very feminine, but not like gay. Like
no, he likes to have fun.
Like he likes to have fun. He doesn't like people around him that are thingy. He can be very moody, but it's like almost like an act sort of thing. It's the way that his acting style has been taught. And then when I look at The Rock, I think, yeah, you know, it would be interesting to have seen what he would have been like as Aquaman, with the half sort of tongue-in-cheek, I can control the water, but I'm not really serious about it, because then it would have given him that look as in, well, this guy could still beat you up. Look at the size of him. Whereas with Momoa, I didn't think that was going to happen until I seen this movie. In the Justice League, I didn't get any feeling like that.
No, it was not because of him. It was the way he was written.
I mean, what use did he have? Like, and I don't want to keep going back to that, but this is where I'm saying, if he would have had that bit part in Justice League after this movie, no one would have cared, because we know that he's already limited as what he can do. Yeah.
Yes.
But, however, once again, because like I said, we're going to go to this multiple times, with the structure and the way that they release these films, this needed to be explained before the Justice League came out, so that you weren't standing there scratching your head saying, so this is just the Flash is like cop buddy now, yeah? Yeah, shut up, Barry. Like, because even they kept that after. Even think about it when we spoke about Peacemaker, the two people that showed up, Jason Momoa and
Ezra Miller.
Ezra probably had no choice because he probably owed them one, because they're probably still saying, look, we can cancel your movie right now.
Yeah, and Jason told.
Did it to keep the character running so he could stay as a character. But think about it. It's exactly what I'm thinking. Well, it would have made a lot more sense if we'd have got to see the Justice League, because then it's like, well, you've not really got a purpose here, but we've already seen what you can do before when we've seen your movie, rather than this guy's got absolutely no purpose apart from maybe a few scenes and a few moments where he's just there. And then months later or a year or so later, we then get to see him. Oh, makes sense now. Because that's not how this is supposed to work, Warhawk. It's supposed to work. If they're going to introduce a character off the bat, I'd rather see that guy just carry on from that moment there. Do you know what I mean? Like, once again, the second movie should have come first, because it would have just been better for him to have taken on Black Manta. And then everybody would have been sitting there scratching their head at the end of, on Christmas Day, you're going to be scratching your head saying, well, how did he become Aquaman then? Bingo.
Well, I mean, it's quite amazing when you look at how far Jason Momoa has come, from Baywatch Hawaii to Game of Thrones to now the DCEU. So it's quite amazing to see this guy completely change, the evolution of Jason Momoa, if you will. And like you said, you can tell he's like the life and soul of the party. He's a big guy, got a good look. Guys respect him, chicks dig him. He's very charismatic. And I think with Aquaman, that really showed in his acting chops that, okay, he's not the greatest actor in the world, but he's just got that charm to him. He's got that charisma that draws you in. So, yeah, I like this guy. Is he a versatile actor? Probably not. But he's just got that aura to him that you just can't help but like him.
He also needs to lay off making his own films and stuff like that, because I watched a film that he apparently was either the producer of or he was the director of, and I'm going to be honest and say it was not great.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know he did his own film like
yeah,
that.
It was a Western thing, The Last Manhunt. It wasn't unwatchable, and he wasn't really in it, to be honest. He was a bit of a side character in it.
But so it wasn't his. So he made the film, but he wasn't the main guy in it.
No, it was weird. It was like he was a director on the film and a producer.
Yeah.
And it was his story as well, which is weird. It's some crazy stuff, man. Like, I've reviewed it on my channel because I couldn't help but say, like, wait, hold on a minute. Wait, what? Yeah, you know what I had to say? What's happening here?
Oh dear, I've not seen that actually. I've never even knew he'd done a film.
I mean, I didn't know he was in that Dune film either. I didn't watch that.
Oh, he's brilliant in that.
I didn't know he was in that.
Oh, he was fantastic in Dune. He was absolutely.
He was in Conan. He was also a Conan the Barbarian in something.
Yes, he was in. Yeah, that was. Yeah, he was in Conan. I've not seen it, but I know he was in Conan.
That must have been awful.
Oh my god. I don't think I've seen that one. Not really. I have bad memories of Conan, because when I think of Conan, I think of Schwarzenegger.
Do you know, to be honest, I think I might have actually seen that film before, and I had absolutely no idea that was Jason Momoa in the film. If he's the person who played Conan.
Yes, I believe he did play Conan.
I think I've seen that, watched it, sat there scratching my head at the end of it. You know, when they first put onto British free TV about 10 years ago, the like TCM sort of Turner Classic Movies sort of channels.
Yeah.
Like, movies and stuff. I don't know what they're called down south, but they've got different names in different regions. Yeah, I'm pretty action movies is what it's called now. I'm pretty sure that I watched that film and it literally left me like, this is a poor remake of the Conan film. Yeah. And I'm almost certain that it failed as well.
He was in it, you're right. Jason Momoa was in Conan.
63 million from 90 million, it did fail. And it was Warner Brothers as well.
That company's got a lot to answer for, I'm telling you.
So this is probably where he probably owed them a favor. And then they were like,
probably it came out at the same time as when he was in Game of Thrones.
Universe, who no one really wants to play. We don't know what we're going to do with him. And you know what? We're probably going to bring this movie out after the film that's actually going to be the film that you get. The guy must have been sitting there scratching his own head when they were like, so my film's not coming out first? And they're like, no, we're going to bring out you in the Justice League. And then at the end of the Justice League film, he must have been sitting there thinking, well, luckily I didn't really do anything, because now no one can really question, but they're all going to be thinking, well, what is Aquaman? So luckily we're going to get to actually show that. He must have been looking at it from that point and that point only. Whereas if you're a fan of the DC universe, you're not looking at it from that angle. You're looking at it from the angle of, well, what? You know what I mean? Like, who is this guy? Why
I
is
know.
he different from the one that I remember reading in the comic books? But on top of that, why was he introduced as this? I've been this badass for this amount of time, but I've just not been around to help any of you guys.
Oh, not that again.
You
And of
know,
course, the question you ask, as we always do in these reviews with DC, whose side is he on?
side is he on? Whose side is he on? I was thinking that before as well. That's another problem that I got with this character from before, which was, you know, like when Bruce goes to speak to him,
Yeah,
and obviously you get to see different points of view, obviously in the Snyder version and in the Josh Whedon version. But you know, the key thing is when he goes to see him and he's like, I'm looking for the guy who can talk to fish and no one wants to tell him and all that type of stuff.
God.
So people are aware. People locally are aware. Where exactly does this guy live? I'm thinking that it's somewhere like Canada or Alaska or somewhere.
I was under the impression, going by, um, the Snyder cut and the Whedon cut, I think it's somewhere he stays in Norway, like a Norwegian village.
Why? What? Wait, what? I
That's
mean,
what I
I
think.
was
I think
confused why
so.
all the people were talking a different language, but in my head, yes, in the film, it kind of comes across like a bit of an Austrian or Scandinavian or,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
something like that.
Finland or somewhere like that. Yeah, Iceland, Finland, somewhere like that. But then that wouldn't then correlate with where Atlantis is supposed to be and how they, you know, he can swim across the ocean in the blink of an eye, you know, sort of thing.
Well, I
Yeah.
think the story with why he's in the village is every so often he helps the poor village, gets them food and stuff to live, just to help them out, really. So,
You know when you get
yeah,
these creatures that are down in the trenches, the kingdom of the brine or the breen.
yeah,
Now they just look like giant lobsters. So I'm just going out on a whim here. So this is obviously what these human-like creatures live off then, yeah?
yeah.
Because what do they eat? This is the thing with these types of movies. How are these people even, how are you even an entity? What are you, at any point did we get any update on how these people eat and survive in water?
No, I don't think so.
And there you go. And that's the first problem with these types of films, is they're only thinking about, and I think once again, I think they were thinking so hard, how do we make this character work on television
Yes,
or on the big screen?
this has always been the problem with Aquaman since day one.
What questions are people going to ask? It's not just about the powers, it's about the logical standpoint of this whole Atlantis, using the mythological thing with Atlantis, because that's obviously another standpoint that's going to draw in historians, all that. And you're just going to, S all over that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, Jason Momoa, I thought, did a great job as Aquaman, but I would be, not doing our job if we wouldn't mention the proverbial elephant in the room in this movie, and that is, of course, Amber Heard, who plays Mira in
Is it
this
Hearn
movie.
or is it Hearn? What's this girl? What's this girl's name?
Amber Heard. It will be hard to ignore this
It's
movie without addressing.
fit as they come. And she gave people, and she gave me feels that damsel in distress, half I've got powers, but I also need. You could feel from the moment that these two locked eyes on each other from on the land, where she's 1 minute walking up the pathway, then she jumps out of the water, which was a weird bit of the film, which I never understood that in that bit there. But her character in the film is so important to what Aquaman is. But then we have to look at her from what she is, the actress
Yeah,
and
that's why
the
we wouldn't be doing our job without referencing her.
because I had no idea who she was when
No,
I
I didn't
see her
either.
in this film. I had no idea who she was. To be fair, I had no idea that the woman that Johnny Depp was married to was this woman until probably about a year ago. But yeah, whoa, let's be fair. Queen, what's her name? Not her name's not Queen Alana. Her name's Princess.
Who Amber Heard's character,
Yeah, what's her character's name?
Mira.
Princess Mira, yeah?
Yeah.
She
Yeah, she's
is
been in the
the
comics
daughter
from day one.
of the guy, the other king guy, who's played by Dolph Lundgren, yeah?
Oh, Ocean Master.
Ocean Master. She's the daughter of the Ocean Master,
I
yeah?
think that's the guy who he plays.
So,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
no, no,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, he's Ocean Master. You're
no,
right.
no, Ocean Master's the brother. Ocean Master's the brother, yeah? King
Yeah.
Heron or King Herod or whatever the guy's name is, that's her dad, the Dolph Lundgren guy, yeah?
Right.
He's her dad. The Ocean Master is the brother. He becomes the Ocean Master because he unites all of the things or whatever he does. I'd get some powerful stuff or whatever it is that happens in the film. Let's be fair. You know, there's a lot going on. But her character, compared to who she is in real life, oh,
Totally
man,
different.
she is something. And I don't even want to even get into that because we have to be careful what we say about her
Of
directly
course.
in real life. But her, wow, I'm going to be honest. I did not she comes across like butter would not melt in her mouth. Yeah. And I'm, wow. Some of those recordings that I heard, wow. I'm just gonna say it like, wow, she was something completely different, wasn't she?
Oh
In
yeah,
like
totally.
when in like and I'm just saying I'm just gonna say was because I hope that she is never caught behaving like this ever again in her lifetime because she makes women who have been abused and all that type of stuff, she makes them look. It seems like everything seems even, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
And I'm not justifying that. I cannot stand men who abuse women, but what is she doing to Johnny Depp, one of the biggest actors out there? Like insane, and I can't dismiss that once again because of what she did. It makes this releasing of the way that these films have gone. It makes King Nearest is his name. King Nearest, that's it. Dolph Lundgren, King Nearest. But yeah, it makes it so that if you ask me my opinion, yeah, I don't ever want to see her ever again.
No,
If
I
she's
hear that.
film fair enough, then that's fine. But I don't
Well,
want to again after that.
I didn't really know much about Amber Heard. I know who Mira is because in the comics, she ends up marrying Arthur Curry, and they have a child together who goes on to become Aqualad in Teen Titans. When I first saw her, and with the long red hair and the green metallic body suit, I thought, holy smokes, she is. Whew.
Well, obviously she's supposed to be
Yeah, she's supposed to be.
that. This is the character that she's playing. This is what the actual
Mm.
real version, if you so to speak, the comic book version of this female looks like. She's not been altered in any way.
No,
Whereas
she looks exactly the same as she does in the comics.
Arthur's
No
character,
different.
Arthur's character has been massively altered.
Oh,
But
totally.
now when you put her and Momoa next to each other, I mean, to be fair, Momoa is like a younger, stronger, fitter, everything that Johnny Depp wanted to be. Let's be fair. Johnny
Yeah,
Depp is a very good looking man, but he's never been this size. And I can guarantee you, if you asked him, would you swap who you are for Jason Momoa looks wise? And he'd be like, yeah,
in
as
a
in
heartbeat.
body size. So if she's into Johnny Depp, looking at these two together, they are the perfect match of any couple that you could, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, any characters that you want to be a good looking couple, this is perfect. So when you get these two characters, like, right, how do you get two unknown subjective characters? We need two of the best looking people that we can possibly get. And trust me when I say casting wise, they hit the nail. And this is where I'm going to start being positive now. They hit the nail on the coffin with these two. I'm not talking about the way that they are in real life.
No,
I'm not talking about the people that Jason Momoa and Amber Heard are. I'm just talking about the casting of those two actors in these roles. They look so hot on the screen together. You almost knew from the moment you seen them. I thought, oh, come on. Like I even knew it as well. Like you, as a man, you sort of roll your eyes and go. No, when it happens to the kid, isn't he? He's a little kid. Spider-Man is, yeah, Peter Parker. So when it
yeah,
happens to him, you always know he's going to fall in love, yeah.
yes,
When it happened, even with Tony Stark, You thought, yeah, you know, he's falling for this girl. Yeah, you know that something's gonna happen. Yeah, he was a playboy. Shit's happening now. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you knew for a fact eventually it was gonna lead to that moment where she started to like, because they go on the little tour through Italy or wherever it is, and she eats the flower and all that type of stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah, and they go through Egypt as well.
Yeah, and they go on these little pseudo dates, but journeys. And you know, she's probably, because remember as well, this is another thing that I'm not talking about. She seemingly seems to be the only other person from Atlantis that can walk on the actual Earth, apart from
Yeah.
him and his mum, which is to this moment is still not explained. Why are these the own? What is their version of it? You know what I mean? Like the mum can live on the earth, he can live on the earth, she can live on the earth, which obviously says that they're supposed to be together anyway, because this is
Yeah.
a destiny thing. At no point does she mention though. You kind of know this is a destiny thing, don't you? I think it's just like it's naturally worked out, isn't it?
Yeah.
You two are not only supposed to be because she's the princess of the king of one of the things, and you are the true king of Atlantis because you are the half breed. And I hate to say that word because I'm mixed race, and I hate to say the word
Yeah.
but that is exactly what it is. Is I'm just gonna say he's mixed race, isn't he? He's mixed mutant, as in he's half human, half mutant. So he's not full Atlantean, he's not full human,
No.
but can survive down there and up here. But then her story isn't explained. The mum's story isn't explained either. Why can she breathe on Earth, but the brother cannot breathe on Earth because he has to come up with the holograms and the masks and stuff?
Yeah, that those parts were confusing.
And
Even though
and
I enjoyed this movie, there were still some head scratching moments. Like, okay, how does that
like,
work?
who's my man's dad then? And this one, I'm scratching my back. Is his dad Neptune? What's going on here? Like, who's the Ocean Master's dad then?
I
Like
know.
because that's his brother, yeah.
Yeah.
So we know who Arthur's dad is because he's the human,
Yeah.
and we know his mum's the Nicole Kidman. So who's my man's dad? Is it Dolph Lundgren? Because I'm confused. Like, is it Dolph Lundgren and that's why he can't marry her, but yet Arthur can marry her?
They never really explained that properly. They
No,
never really made that clear.
but you just knew for a fact from the moment that these two were on the screen together, oh, these two are supposed to be together, not just
No.
help each other. Because they and you know what? There wasn't that awkward sort of hatred. It was more just Arthur like, look, I'm happy with just helping out the local people. Fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you. You know what I mean? Whatever
Yeah.
this is, I don't want. And obviously, he's mad with his mum as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're gonna touch upon his mum. His mum is played by Nicole Kidman, and this isn't the first time she's been in a DC movie. As we all know, she played in a Batman Forever.
What was she? Chase Meridian.
That's right.
She was much more hotter back then. I'll be honest. They're like,
What? Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna,
she was
yeah,
supposed.
I'm gonna
She
agree.
was that the that was Val Kilmer, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the Val Kilmer Batman film. Yeah, and she played Dr. Chase Meridian. Yeah, she looked phenomenal in that film, I must
Yeah.
say.
You're supposed to find out that Bruce was Batman. I'm sure I read somewhere that she was supposed to find out, or maybe she does. Maybe
I
I can't.
think, I think she did find out, but she didn't say anything. She just kind of put it down
She's
to.
supposed to be Harley Quinn, isn't she?
I wasn't really entirely sure.
Because she plays the same role, the psychiatrist or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, but no, she wasn't supposed to be Harley Quinn.
You know, obviously, as I got older and seen those two characters, I thought, well, why? And I always thought that why did they? And obviously, I know that she wasn't Harley Quinn, but I just feel that they changed the name and took the same sort of thing, but took away what she was supposed to be to give Batman a love interest,
Yeah,
rather than just having Selina return and Selina being the love interest, etc. But yeah, that's a story for
I
a different.
mean,
Hmm.
that's for another time, obviously. I mean, Nicole Kidman, as I said, no stranger to being in a DC movie. Obviously, in this movie, she is a lot older.
She's still fit. Don't get me
Oh,
wrong.
absolutely. Oh, she
She's
still
in
looks
great
great.
shape. I mean, I've seen her in something recently as well, and I can't remember what I've seen her
She's a
in.
she's a good actress. I think a lot of people sleep on her.
She been over
I
in
don't
the
think
Marvel
people really,
universe as well.
that I'm not sure of. She may have been, but I'm not entirely sure of that. But yeah, she's still a good actress,
I've looked
and she was
recently.
really good in this movie.
What did I see her in recently?
Yeah, she plays Aquaman's biological mum, and she falls in love with the fisherman who's Aquaman's
He saves her, doesn't he? What,
human dad.
he doesn't save her. He just he like rescues her from whatever she's going through on the rocks. Which
Yeah,
never explained why was she so far away from Atlantis. She'd obviously been
I
involved with
think what I think they explained that she does these little walkabouts every few years. She does these little walkabouts on the surface, and she met him while she was fishing. I think she saved him. She saved his life. She saved him from drowning, and then they fell in love and had a child, or something like that.
she was in the Northman,
Yeah,
which was a film I think from this year or last year. So I think that's where I must have looked her up at some point. She plays like a queen character.
yeah. She has played a few Queen characters. You know, she's
Right.
done stuff like that
Not
before.
be rude, but she's the right type of age, and she's the right type of looks at her age to play that sort of character.
Got
Angelina
the
Jolie
right look as well to
sort of
play
thing.
that sort of character.
They're all doing it. Some of the older
Yeah,
people.
yeah. She's definitely got that. Yes, a lot of people like Angelina Jolie. They've all played like the Queen-like figure. They've all done it.
She's returning in this film as well.
Yeah, and from my understanding, Amber Heard will be in the second Aquaman movie, but it's because she was originally supposed to have a much bigger part, but because of the controversies surrounding her actions, I think her time has been reduced to like 5 minutes.
Oh, so she's just playing a cameo role in this next film, which is
Yeah, in
this
the sequel,
of course, because when you think about this film that we're talking about right now, she plays a massive part in Aquaman, like I said earlier on, actually becoming Aquaman. Because she's the one really
yes,
who convinces him. She's the one who sort of gets his mind into where he's supposed to be, who he's supposed to be, his destiny and all that. And,
yeah,
you know, let's be fair, his character is a sleazeball enough that the moment he laid eyes on her, he thought, damn it, who the hell is it? But he could tell that she was obviously something different. But he's like, whoa. So she knows, and she knows he knows. No matter what, if
well, they're
there's
supposed to have grown up together, haven't they?
something that he's going to get out of the situation, he's going to be a lot more willing to save the day. But in the end, it turned out to be more of a, she probably thought, I've got to get close to this guy because I want to be with him more than I would ever want to be with any of these people because he's the true like guy.
Yeah,
Like when they say he's the man, he's the pan. When Rufio drops down and says you are the pan, this is the pan. So all
yeah.
these stories that they've been hearing about for the last, Lord knows how many years and how old these people are, all these stories that they get told about the surface dwellers and all that, this is the man, this is the guy. You can't hurt him on land, you can't hurt him in the ocean. So this is the guy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that moment where you see, Arthur Curry puts on the iconic Aquaman suit, the suit of armor, and he steps out of the waterfall for the first time holding the scepter. That to me was the ultimate moment. It was like Aquaman went from being a joke to being serious, and to me that was my way of saying, screw all of you. Aquaman's
It,
cool.
it
He's the real
still did
deal.
a little
Shut
bit,
up.
to be honest, it still did look a little bit goofy, but most of the characters, that's the reason why the X-Men have never been in their original costumes because they are quite goofy. But the moment that you seen that case open with the Wolverine 90s mask, your heart trembled like, oh,
You're hearing that theme going off.
oh,
You know.
whoa. I need to see Hugh Jackman and I'm almost certain that you'll get to see it in this Deadpool movie coming up because
You
he's got
will. You
that
will.
costume on before he quits. Yeah.
Yeah, you are going to see that.
Even if it's just a spoof bit. Yeah. I need to see him in that outfit. But it's the same thing, isn't it? You know that the Aquaman costume is goofy as hell. Yeah.
It it is the thing is, you see, it is goofy.
They missed an opportunity, and I think that they were too scared to do something like this. Just at the moment when he pops up out of the water and does the pose, randomly turns to like one of the seahorses, just sort of like munching. He's like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, just like a little joke bit, yeah. Because obviously we remember Aquaman riding seahorses, and then that's where she could say, oh, you can ride them. Like, you know, like, and then they show them in a much more like purposeful meaning. As in, oh, look what you can do with these things here. Yeah, you can ride them and they can get you from A to B. At no point in this film did we get to see one of them. Oh, you did get to see them, but he wasn't, he barely interacted with anything like that in the film.
But he did, I have to say that as corny as the suit is, the design they came up with, because it's more based on the
gold, though, isn't it? It's still solid gold. Yeah,
it looked good. It looked really good.
It was like when you're looking at it, you look thinking you're not, you know, you're not looking at just the color. That is solid gold and what looks like jade. So it's like maybe just me reading into that. But you know, two of the biggest you know, emeralds or luxuries on this earth are jade and gold. And his costume to me looked like it was made out of, you know, like green diamonds, emerald. And
yeah, I mean, like his pants were like gold, like green emerald, and the top was
all of
like,
the Atlantic people, they're not wearing gold as a color. It's gold like Egypt, isn't it?
It looked really good. It should have, like you said, it is corny.
And why would the people that live in the ocean not be able to know where gold is?
I know.
The gold is in the ocean.
But it was a cool moment, and to me that cemented Aquaman. It's like, finally, after all these years, Aquaman's finally got the respect he should have got years ago.
But to then leave the comic book and all of the fans, same with this film here, Aquaman. Why? You know as well as I do, once you get too many whys and too many yeah buts, this is where the problem starts with these films, because they're never balanced on what the actual film is on the screen. They're balanced of what the film's meaning is to all of the other films and all of the other stuff that's supposed to come before and after. The chronological order can be a really big problem.
Yeah, I know. It just doesn't make any sense, does it?
We got 10, 15 minutes of screen time in the Justice League movie and the Batman versus Superman clip. And then we got a full origin story for a character that we should have got the origin story for. And once again, I know that I keep repeating that, but the truthful fact is this is where the DC universe from day one, they've always had it. It's always about the films making money before is it about the films either A, making sense, or B, following along to the origin of what the film is supposed to be. Let's be fair, they've taken so many liberties over the years. This was actually a pretty good origin story for this character, but it's all wasted when you think about it, because now in the second movie, you've just told me that Amber Heard plays practically no part. So her character is basically dead in the water on arrival rather than just being recast.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were actually petitioning for Emilia Clarke, who played Daenerys, to play Amira.
Reunite these two, yeah?
Yeah, that's what people were pushing for, but unfortunately, that hasn't happened. Would have been good, but you know, it is what it is. Now, another guy who's in this film we haven't touched upon, William Dafoe's in this movie. He plays Volko, who mentors Arthur Curry and trains him. Now, for those of you who know William Dafoe, he is, of course, best known for playing the Green Goblin in the Spider-Man movies. What was your thoughts on William Dafoe in a DC movie? Because I found it a bit strange, to be honest.
Well, I thought it was even weirder when he returned as the Green Goblin in the recent Spider-Man film, because it's like, so subsequently at the same time, you're going to be playing two different characters in two different universes. So, yeah, I mean, it's not so uncommon nowadays, is it? Let's be fair. A lot of these characters and actors have been in both of the DC and Marvel universes at some point, going back to, once again, the early DC film. But I like the character.
Yeah, he was a good character. He was a pretty decent character.
Necessary. What was, once again, even more confusing was the fact that you then got to learn subsequently that he'd been training Arthur from when Arthur was young. So it was like, That was in this movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was in this first movie. Yes.
Yes, it was in this movie where you get to see him talking and training with a young Officer Arthur. Because up until that point there, you wouldn't have even been, well, maybe up until he meets Amber, you wouldn't have been able to have even thought that he had any idea that this mythological, like the way that they put this across on the screen was like he'd been told who his mum was, but he had absolutely no idea apart from the powers that he had. So he wasn't using the powers the way that he could. He was using them, like you say, to help out poor people, to bring them fish in the bad times, because he was the only one who could obviously risk catching them. But at the same time, it turns out that he's been completely aware the whole time of his whole origin sort of destiny and story that he's supposed to be living with. But yet, as we've seen, he was clearly not interested one bit whatsoever in dealing with that.
Yeah. I mean, his role in Aquaman was small but important.
It was very important, and truthfully, he is one of, at first, which explains why, because he's trained him, but he is one of, if not the only person, because I don't think that even she is on his side, but it's to do with the fact that Black Manta and the submarine had been set up by the king himself or by Ocean Master.
That's right.
To attack Atlantis, so that it seemed that the surface dwellers were now aware of where Atlantis was, and this whole thing of what was really their greed that got them trapped underground. They've then turned that into a story of, no, we were forced underground by the surface people. But that also then dismisses that you were all surface people originally, but the ones that have gone deep have chose. And, like all the magical, whatever the magical stuff that was in the water that changed all these people into being able to breathe underwater and all that stuff, because they don't really hit upon that in this film.
No.
You almost have to do your own research of what Atlantis is, and then they do talk about it in this film about what Atlantis is, and it being it was a place where people lived above the ground, and then obviously you get the little cutscenes and whatever else you get, but there's not enough time, is there, in this film? We're basically talking about, they believe that the world is in danger, and there is only certain people who actually know, A, that Arthur exists, and B, they know deep down that he is the only person that can actually save them. And obviously, Willem Dafoe's character is practically the only person who truly believes that Arthur can save the day. Amber's just going to him because she thinks it's his blood right or his birthright or whatever. He's the true king by birth. It's nothing to do with if he, like, let's be fair, she, for all she knows, she could think that he's an absolute idiot at first.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, Defoe's character doesn't think that, because he knows that it's more to do with Arthur just doesn't really want, or is not interested in, the birthright. She thinks that it's to do with, oh, he thinks he's an outcast, he's not welcome, but I'm going to tell him there's different things. And that's where I think that she obviously falls for him in the end, because she realizes that he is the one true king, not just because of blood right, because of actually who he is and what he's willing to sacrifice and what he's fighting for and what he doesn't like. Like you say, when they capture him, they almost like tease him, don't they? Like, you're not worthy, you're a half-breed, you're not worthy of what we are. But it turns out that they realize very, very quickly he is way more stronger than any of them, way more powerful than any of them. And obviously, this is to do with obviously the training. They don't know any of this. I'm assuming that they don't know that he's been trained by Willem Dafoe's character. And like you say, it's only a small part, but it's very crucial. Defoe and Amber Heard's characters are so crucial to Aquaman, not Arthur Curry and not Jason Momoa, but to Aquaman's character.
Yeah, totally.
Is he ever even? I don't think he's even referred to as Aquaman in this, is he?
No, I don't think he is referred to.
Was he ever referred to as Aquaman in the whole Justice League saga?
No, I don't think he ever was. They only always called each other by their proper names.
Haven't we spoken about this before, where we've said
we've spoken about this a few times, actually?
Is this character actually even the actual character? Because there's no naming. Now, we know that this is Aquaman because we know, not just because of the title of the film. You just know because of the whole story, the suit and all that.
Yeah.
But they don't, once again, Batman is Batman. Superman is Superman. These are established people within this world. Now, once again, we don't yet know what the time frame is here. All this could have taken
The most they mention
place.
is it's set sometime after the Justice League, because Mira mentions to Arthur that you and a bunch of other people fought Steppenwolf. So
So wait, so you're telling me that this actually film, so the origin, that's obviously just put there to show how he became.
yes,
Because that don't make any sense still.
I think the film is set. They do, as I said, it's set about a couple months after the Justice League movie.
Because really and truthfully, it feels like they just put that bit in there to tie it in because the film came out after. We all know that this really should have taken place way before the Justice League took place.
Yeah, of course.
Even though he's got all these powers.
But yeah, I do remember that's the only reference to the Justice League you get in this movie.
That's mad. Honestly, that's even blown my mind even more.
Yeah, only that one bit though.
Telling me that it wasn't just released after; they actually tried to sell it as it was set after.
Yeah,
that's nonsense.
Yeah, that's all you get. That's the one bit you get in the whole movie. Is that
this film is an origin story that clearly took. Even the way that he acts, he's got no idea what. He's got no idea.
I know.
No idea what any of this stuff is, and if he's been playing Aquaman or some version of the guy who can talk to fish, he should be aware at this point exactly who he is.
You would think so.
He can survive underwater. How?
I think, like you said, they only said that the Justice League is just to say, oh yeah, it's still part of that universe.
Yeah. So what you're saying is basically the Warner Brothers and DC are saying, well, because he had the origin story where we showed you him training with the guy, but his character doesn't portray that. There's no point in this film where he portrays a character that is fully aware of what this thing is that he's got and where these people are in the ocean.
Yeah.
He seems like he is a fish out of water, literally and figuratively, as in he's got no idea that he is as powerful as he is compared to the other people that can do what he can do. Because as far as he's aware, he's the only one who can do it, apart from his mum. His mum who went back to this place that he's never been to, that he doesn't know where it is.
No.
Getting told now, oh, no, there was this guy who used to come and train him before. So surely there must have been multiple interactions with, cousins.
Yeah.
We don't get to see any of that. We get to see that, what we've seen, and we get a character that's portrayed as a person that is completely unaware of Atlantis being an actual thing apart from what he got told by his dad, which, as you know, that story could just be utter bullshit. Apart from the dad seeing the mum fighting with the guys, but that still doesn't say that what she said, anything that she said, was true. Why did these people leave her for 9 months? Or is she that special that she gives birth in the same time that a fish does? Maybe fish give birth quicker or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, none of this is explained in the film. We just get to see flashbacks and jump scenes where we go from no Arthur being pregnant in the belly with the mum having Arthur, fight goes off, dad brings up Arthur gets the bullying thing at school, fish come to the fucking thing, we start to realize, yeah, this kid's a bit special. Well, this is probably backs up some of the stuff that his mum was saying before. So if he wasn't believing that from before, this is exactly what we were saying before. Right, what are the depths of these powers then? Why was the dad not immediately then saying, right, well, we can clearly see something's a little bit different. I was aware that you are a child of somebody. Maybe what your mum was saying isn't as far-fetched. So maybe it was the dad that discovered these things. Maybe it was, like you say, like broken doors, obvious things that happen to superheroes because they're strong-powered or whatever, yeah? Like Clark went through it, didn't he? Doesn't know his own strength, got to learn how to control it, all these things. We got to see none of that.
No, I mean, the most we ever saw with this film was William Dafoe's character Volko training with him.
But
That's
then
all we got.
that makes you believe that this film was set way before the Justice League.
Yeah,
If you
I
don't
know.
that line will go completely over your head.
It would. No, it really would.
And if you watch this film and then find out after what the Justice League, wait, so let me just go back. But this is clearly Aquaman, powered
Yeah.
as powered can be, but just without the suit. So yes, he gets the suit, but we also haven't seen him wearing the suit since. And I'm almost certain that he's not going to be wearing that suit in this new film.
I believe he will be wearing that suit, but he's also going to be wearing a new one as well, from what I've seen in like some pictures.
Oh my word, my head.
Oh dear.
I didn't. You know what? I thought I changed. I watched it, like I said, with the Suicide Squad. I thought that was a really bad movie at first.
Yeah,
And
so did I
I'm
initially.
gonna be honest with you. I'm starting to see. Like I did change my mind when we were reviewing the Suicide Squad. Like I said, you know that we seen that film was quite underrated, to be perfectly honest.
It was.
But this film was destroyed because of it being part of the Justice League. Simple as this film is a really good standalone film
It
that shouldn't
is.
have any link to any other film and any other thing because it makes no sense. The only thing that makes sense in the second film now is that the Black Manta's coming back because you remember
Yes.
the first film. But if she's not in it and nothing else, oh, it's happening again, isn't it?
Oh no.
This is
Well,
where
I'm glad that you mentioned Black Manta because it would be really hard to not talk about Aquaman without mentioning him. Now, Black Manta is not actually the main villain in this movie. He has a big part in it, but obviously they're saving him for the sequel. But I thought Black Manta, who's played by Yahya Abdul Mateen II. Okay, I hope I pronounced that right. He was an absolute beast in this movie. And the suit, the Black Manta suit, it was like it was pulled out of a Injustice game. It just looks so good, straight from the comic books. He was amazing, and he's one of the main reasons I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel. It's because of him. What did you think of Black Manta in this movie? Bear in mind, it was only like a small part.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, I like most people at the end of the film, I was kind of left scratching my head until the very last bit where he's obviously seen washed up. Yeah,
Yeah,
obviously, I want some of your technology. I know where Atlantis is, all this type of stuff. You help me, I'll help you. Or
yeah,
whatever, deal with the devil sort of situation. Um, yeah, to an extent, I realized how important this character was going to be, and now obviously now he's going to be the main antagonist in this second film. I'm down with it. Like, by all means, there are some. I mean, they've already showed it in the trailer, really, haven't they? The
yeah,
Batman as the cause of Mama's dad getting hurt or dying or whatever, and we also get to see some different types of these creatures and things that are roaming the Atlantean, and I'm pretty sure that there's other links to like Egypt and stuff like that in this film as well. So
yeah.
they're not just going with the Atlantean stuff, they're going with the obviously mythological stuff. So we'll see what's happening, because isn't it pretty much the same as the last film, as in the whole spectrum of things is it's another guy trying to be the true king of Atlantis because there's a second kingdom that people weren't aware of, or there's a kingdom that people weren't aware of, and now they have now come forward and they are saying, our king is the true king of Atlantis. We are the original Atlantean people, and they've now recruited Black Manta, or is it just that Black Manta is completely separately attacking Jason Momoa? Because I know for a fact that the whole Lost Kingdom thing comes from, there's a new kingdom, or there's a kingdom that wasn't discovered before now.
I think I think from what I've heard for obviously in the title, I think there'll be an appearance of another kingdom in the second one, and I think Black Manta will be a part of that, like leading them to fight Aquaman's kingdom as well. because he's looking for revenge for what happened to his dad, who we see at the beginning when the whole submarine got sunk by Aquaman.
Yeah. I understand the Black Manta like situation because he wants to get revenge, and that's why he goes to hurt obviously Arthur's dad. Yeah,
Yeah,
but maybe that's just a complete fluke in this film. But it's this whole new creatures that I'm seeing in the trailer and new people that look like they're living in a non-underwater kingdom. It doesn't look like they're underwater. They've obviously got water in their kingdom, but this lost kingdom seems like it looks like Egypt and those places there. It's got some kind of desert thing to it. So I don't know if you've seen that in the trailer, but
no, I've not really seen the trailer for the second Aquaman movie. I try to avoid a lot of trailers these days because I tend to feel trailers spoil everything. So
well, yeah,
I try to avoid it.
I just wanted, this was earlier on. I just wanted to
I've seen
watch.
pictures. I've seen pictures.
Just wanted to watch the trailer because of the new film because I wanted to see how many people I would, that were going to reprise their role because of the way that the films were once again structured. And I'm not going to get into another deep rant about it. But I still strongly believe that at the end of this film, I'm going to look back and think this film should have come first.
Yeah, this film should have been. I mean, it's an amazing movie. There's no question about it.
We all see him with the submarine, and then he gets into an issue with this. Bearing in mind that he's already just playing the king of Atlantis, so you don't actually get to see him become the king of Atlantis. He's already just the king of Atlantis, and everybody around him is just acting like, well, yeah, you're the king, yeah, because you're Arthur, you're Aquaman, yeah, whatever.
You're the man, basically. But we've not seen him become the man, though.
The odd little clip, flashback of past rulers, introduction to the trench and other things like that, what they are, and then he needs to go on some kind of quest, maybe to get the suit, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was to get the suit.
Does all that? That could be part of the film. Does all that part of the film, and then when he gets out of the trench, dressed as Aquaman, not only is Black Manta started attacking Atlantis, there is now, because of Black Manta attacking Atlantis, there has been a hidden doorway or something like that to a different kingdom that is now lost to us. But Black Manta's attack has now opened up this kingdom, and now these new creatures, a new king is arrived. So by the time that he gets back, he's not only got to deal with Black Manta, he's got, because this is exactly what's going to happen in the second film. Yeah. Yes. So this should have been the first film. And then first film, people would then have said, the only thing that's left to ask about this absolutely amazing character, Aquaman, how did he become Aquaman? Bang, first film. And then you haven't got the Amber Heard problem then, because you could just recast her as a younger woman.
Yeah, you could have done that.
Like I said, in the second film, it seems he is wearing the suit, but he's wearing a different suit as well. It seems that this is something to do with practically what I'm on about. The first film should have just been about something completely different. Should have been about this, because this, like, once again, they're setting the fact that he's already Aquaman, but he's now in the Justice League. But then he becomes the king of Atlantis after he is already in the Justice League. But he isn't aware of Atlantis being what Atlantis is. And now all of a sudden in the second film, we're getting him being the full ruler and king of Atlantis. And now he's being challenged by somebody else from a lost world. What are the chances in that?
Now, another question, I wanted to bring this up. Obviously we're still talking about the first one, but it's kind of hard not to talk about the second one because it's getting very close to coming out. But I'm curious to know, where is the second Aquaman film going to be set? Because anybody who's seen The Flash and knows how The Flash ended, where does that fit in timeline wise?
Who knows? This is what I'm on about. For all we know, the Black Manta stuff could take place at the start of the movie.
It could.
Black Manta, and then at the end of the movie, it's a whole different, this happened as well between now and then.
Well, yeah, of course.
We don't know if these two storylines are going to run concurrently, separately, if this is literally like half of one film, half, and we do not know. Because just by even watching this trailer, pretty much can see what's going to go off in the film. I've just said it in the previous one. But once again, if you take elements of the second film, they easily would fit into the first film.
Yeah.
Because you teased us with a character, Black Manta. He's in this film.
Yep.
So you get more to see of him. You get less to see of the side character from the last film, which is obviously Amber. And for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But in this film, like I said, at the end of the day, when you talk about the second film, it just depends how Black Manta's role is actually going to be portrayed.
I think he will be the main villain for this one.
Lost Kingdom, and that makes the most sense. But is he just going to be like he has been in the first film, which is a big bad, but he's not yet to grips with how bad he is, and he's literally fighting with either on his own or with a couple of the Atlantean, like, rebellious guys? Because remember, he's the king now, Aquaman. So everyone's on his side now. It's not like he's fighting for the throne against somebody who people don't, because they didn't even hate my man. He wasn't going around and doing anything that people hated him for. He was just the king, but he wasn't the rightful king while Arthur was alive.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, as we said, this is a very good movie, very enjoyable. But yeah, it's DC. You know, there's always confusing parts.
Yeah, because we know what happens. I've said this to you before. I don't know if it's the Warner executives or the DC executives, but it's like they sit down at a table and they just find ways to irritate anyone with any sort of common sense. They, like, literally, there must be at least 3 Vince McMahons in the room.
Or 3 Vince Russos.
No, that's what I mean. Even if Vince Russo strikes gold in that room, so let's say Vince Russo is Joss Whedon, hit and miss, but he's not always going to get it wrong.
No, he's not.
If there's 5 or 6 Vince McMahons in the room that are all going, no, I don't want that. Maybe we'll do this. Yeah. But maybe we'll do this means we're definitely going to do this. Eventually, it leads to it's either going to go one way or the other, isn't it? It's going to go where it's going to lean towards the Vince McMahon style, and people are going to hate it or love it, or it's going to lean towards Vince Russo's side, and people are going to hate it or love it. But what you get with Warner is almost this thing, which is if DC comes up with a good idea, it seems like Warner goes, right, let's see how we can fuck that idea up, apart from, instead of making that idea better, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Because like you say, it's almost like a tongue-in-cheek. Oh, because this is DC, remember, you're going to get some confusing situations. And man, is that a statement.
That's saying a lot.
But no, honestly, though, and it's going to be difficult to wean through this so far, this was a really good film on its own.
It was.
It was a bit confusing how they could speak underwater and all that type of stuff, yeah? But, I'm not going to question that.
Well, I mean, overall, aside from the few confusing moments in the continuity, this was actually a very good DCEU movie. And it's interesting, when you look at the whole DCEU, all of the movies, I believe the 4 actually, most successful movies from the DCEU, or maybe even 5, if I can think of the 5th one, were Wonder Woman, the first one, the first Shazam movie, and Aquaman. And I think the other one
grossed over $1 billion, by the way.
Yeah. And the second Suicide Squad, which was directed by James Gunn, and I think Birds of Prey, which, we will touch upon that later on down the line. But yeah, the ones that are not Batman and Superman movies, those ones did really well. And this was one of them. This did really, really well. I think the percentage it got, let's have the percentage it got here.
This film, I want to say this film got probably 60%, 70%. 6 times, its budget back. It was something like 180 million.
Well, Rotten Tomatoes gave Aquaman 65%, but I saw something yesterday on Facebook. It actually got a lot higher than that. I think it got like 78%, which is pretty good.
Yeah, because when they rank the films, they just rank the films by what the film is on the screen.
Yes.
Forget about what it's supposed to be linked to. That's what hurts me. is because such a good Suicide Squad's the same as well.
The first one was good.
Movie, such a good movie is just shredded to pieces because it's supposed to be part of this. And I'm going to be honest with you now. This universe that is held together with sticky tape and, blue tack sticky tape and all that are not.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, paper mache, this is what this structure is for the Justice League whole DCEU. It's madness. Because this was a really, really good film.
It was. I really enjoyed this. I was very pleased with this film.
This is all you got from Jason Momoa and Aquaman. Not a word would be said. I think this is actually looked at worse because there is going to actually be a second film.
Like, I think that's what's surprised a lot of people.
Do this.
Yeah.
And
I really enjoyed it.
They cannot not mess this one up because it's not going anywhere. And we know it's not going to go anywhere. So it's like, even if this next film is going to be the greatest DC film ever, and I expect it to be a good one as well.
Yeah, so do I.
Even if this is the greatest DC film, it's still going to be looked at subjectively because where do you take any of these characters going forward?
Well, I mean, the DCEU is pretty much dead in the water now. I mean, James Gunn's taken over DC. It's now called DCU. Most of the guys are not coming back. I know Jason Momoa is going to be kept on. Gal Gadot, that's still up in the air. But most of these guys won't be coming back. I think Margot Robbie will be coming back as Harley Quinn in some shape or form. But the rest of those guys, like Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck, they won't be coming back. But overall, I quite enjoyed this movie a lot. It was certainly one of the better ones. So, as we are coming to the end of wrapping this up, we are going to give our rating on this movie. So, Rex, what would you rate this movie out of 10 for Aquaman?
I mean, once again, as a standalone film, cinema sins sort of rating.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this film a 9 out of 10. I thought this was great. I thought it was spectacular. Like,
I'm
going to go as far as to say, outside of the Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, this Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman are by far the best DC films that have come out ever. Like, Batman 89 is up there, but it's up there because of what Batman 89 was. But there's also 3 better Batman films than that. So
yeah,
I'm just going to just eliminate those early Batman films, no matter how good or bad that they were anyway. Superman hasn't had a good film as far as I'm concerned because the original film was what it was, but the rest of the films have all been absolutely horrific as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
This, for a starting film, for the first character, outside, and this probably would stun anyone who's listened this long into this review or this podcast retrospective. Like, what's he rating it so high for? He's been horrible about it. No, I'm talking about the way that this film makes me feel. I'm on about the way that this film came across to me as a fan of DC, Arrowverse, all that. When you ask me what this film is as a film and what it's rated, it's one of the better DC films. In fact, it's one of the better films that's come out in the last decade.
Yeah.
Right? This comes on TV, I'll sit down and watch this right now because it's one of those films where, for me, it's got replayability. Just that moment where they kiss is like, right, this is how you're supposed to portray a superhero. Is anyone else? He wins. He wins at the end of the day. This is how a superhero. All that makes this film spectacular. But everything else, if you want me to be perfectly honest and say, how do I rank this film as part of the DCEU and part of the comic book structure and comic book films structure of things, yeah, it's probably like a 6 because you can't ignore all of the problems that this film's got. But as an actual film, you can't deny Warhawk. From the moment that this film starts playing until the moment this film ends, this is one of the best DC films, if not the best DC film that came out after The Dark Knight Rises and stuff like that.
Well, I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 as well. I thought this was a very good movie. And as I said earlier, it's definitely one of the better movies to come out of the DCEU. I'd definitely put this up there with the first Wonder Woman movie.
It's arguable this is the best. Like, say Wonder Woman's because it's Gal Gadot and it's a woman. if we're not men, straight men, how do we give this the extra kick over the Wonder Woman film?
No, no, but
Maybe it's looking at it subjective. Like personally, I do think that Wonder Woman, the impact film and what it was a better film than this.
yeah,
But you know what? And because it's set in World War One.
of course.
But
And
you
it's
know,
the first one.
for what these two films were, and they are the best two films in my opinion, and Suicide Squad, I'm going to throw in there.
Yeah, definitely.
It's strange to say this, but you know these films where they just base it on what they need to base it on rather than, right, we've got these 6 things that we need to do. We need to get these characters in. We need to get this character in there. We need to get that. What they had here was exactly what we got, the origin story for Aquaman.
Yes.
This is what they delivered us. If they never put this guy on the screen again, what you've got is from birth till he wins the day and becomes the king of Atlantis, you've got the whole story in this film.
That's it, really. No, you hit the nail on the head. I'm definitely going with that score as well. 9 out of 10. I recently rewatched it. It was very good.
Who Aquaman is. You read a brief synopsis of who the Aquaman character was. This film, even in its short form, even though you'd be expecting a lot more stories and side stories for a superhero character, this film delivers. Every single box is ticked for the character of Aquaman alone.
It did exactly what it said on the tin.
Yeah, for Aquaman himself, did we get origin? Yes.
Yes.
Did we get like early stages, sort of not really realizing who he was? Yes.
Yes.
Did we get full powered, ready to go Megazord version of the character? Yes.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, and we also got the journey, the Indiana Jones journey to the center of the earth. Let's go find these mythological all that was just great. Like the Poseidon's trident thing, all that was just great. Like for kids, people watching, that's what you want when you talk about superheroes. Because remember, Indiana Jones is still a superhero. Just because he hasn't got powers and that, he's still really a superhero, isn't he?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
And there you go. You get that in this story. This is basically everything all smashed in to, 2 hours of screen time. It's unfortunate, once again, like I said, that where this film was put in. A year before, this is maybe the greatest film. In fact, if this would have come after Wonder Woman, those two films would be undeniably the best two films.
Oh, absolutely. But it's just the time they came out. You see, you had Wonder Woman, which was fantastic, as you say. And then you had the Justice League, which was the Joss Whedon Justice League. And yeah,
it's
didn't
because
set the world on fire. And you had Aquaman.
I'm going to use this word, unnecessary.
Yeah.
Where this was positioned, this film kind of gave off the and once again, if you had my opinion, I'd have thought this was his origin story that was set before the Justice League. But regardless of it being set before or after the Justice League, it's the positioning of the actual film in the DCEU. Yeah. This film would have come out immediately after or just after Wonder Woman. This is the perfect film.
Yes. It certainly would have been up there. They would have had 2 big, massive films in a row if they had released it after.
As far as I reckon if this had to come out in the right position, I still would have spent quite a lot of time saying about the whole Justice League thing. But I'm thinking that this is going to be breaching maybe even a 10. Because the quality of this film, the thing about it is it doesn't really matter about I've seen better special effects in different movies than I have. But it's what keeps you watching. I watched this film 6 months ago on television, and I waited through breaks to see what would happen next, even though I was kind of aware of what happened next. We've all got, as doing these things, we've all got a bit of a trailer memory in our head of what takes place in most of these films. Yeah?
Yeah.
When you watch them in their full form, especially on TV where you get a few little extra snippets here and there, with the films that are PG, of course. It's weird because sometimes they can just grip you and you're like, fucking hell, this never had me like this before. I don't remember watching this at the cinema and being like completely on the edge of my seat. I need to see what, everything. Because like I say, there's more than just the story for him becoming Aquaman. There's also the love story between him and the woman that he's going to be ruling the universe, like his universe with, or his kingdom with.
Yeah, definitely up there with Wonder Woman, the first one. Absolutely.
It's weird because you know what? You would have thought that Suicide Squad, this and not Wonder Woman, but this and Suicide Squad, and a lot of people, unless they go back and watch them, would probably put these films really low down the pecking order, but they don't realize how good that these films actually are.
I think that's been a lot of the trouble. No one really gives them a chance, or no one really sits down and actually takes their time, because they just go by what critics say. They don't actually make their own opinion. And I think that's what a lot of the trouble with these films are. If they say, no, it's a bad film, oh, it is a bad film. Why is that? Because the critics said so. It's like, no, you decide what you think of it.
Yeah, that started to really annoy me about, you know, when you got your, what I call that comic book buddy, but sometimes you get those type of friends where there's a friendly competitiveness between friends, but there's also that when you've just got that one guy who he has to go above and beyond to do everything first. Like, you know, I'm not a fan of watching a movie on my mobile phone in camera quality just because it looks decent on my mobile phone so that I can say that I've watched a film. I would sooner pay £15 to go and watch it in its cinematic form to see what the experience is like watching that film. Yeah?
Well, yeah.
So I'm not talking about anybody else's opinion. I'm not talking about anybody else's reaction. I could watch the film with literally myself in the cinema, but I want to watch that film on the cinema stream because I know I'm going to watch it on TV or on some streaming platform eventually anyway. But the difference is like when people just want to be that guy, I feel like they go down that road of they start to delve into everything that's wrong with something rather than like we are here now. I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you a lot of the things that are wrong with something. But if I go into this film thinking in my mind, right, this is going to be bad for all of these reasons, I'll never give this film the benefit of doubt what I did. But I went into this film worried, so sick about all of the other stuff that we've discussed so far. I don't think it really even mattered, really, in my mind. Like, as long as, once again, this film hit those boxes of telling me who the hell this Aquaman guy was, where he came from, and how he became Aquaman, which is exactly why I thought this took place before the Justice League. Because why is the Aquaman in the Justice League without the suit? You know what I mean? That's the only that links in. And like I said, without all that nonsense there, this is completely rock solid. And I mean rock solid.
Yeah.
Like you put me in a room with every DC movie, and this is high up on the top tier.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'd probably feel the same as well. I'll definitely put that very high up. If I had to choose 3 movies of the DCEU that I tend to go back to the most, it's this one, Wonder Woman, and the first Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, I mean, the very top tier is the Dark Knight trilogy for me.
Of course, that's a level that will never be matched.
On their own as the best. They may even stand alone on their own as the best superhero films.
Yeah.
Above Marvel, anything that Marvel's done, yeah?
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm going to say this again. This film made over $1 billion at the box office.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Wanting to see what happened, that's massively impressive, and it deserves a second movie, which is exactly why it got a second movie, and that will probably be another box office smasher as well. Yeah. Strategically, Aquaman could actually go down as the second best DC character because I'm going to be honest with you, the second Wonder Woman film was not good. It was not great.
It had its good moments, but when you look at the first one, yeah, it was a letdown.
And I think when you look at Batman, those 3 films almost eradicate all the shit ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not been a Superman film that will do that. They're all on the same sort of average to all right sort of level. And then you've got the odd, like you say, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman movie that's right up there.
Oh, definitely.
Now, Wonder Woman obviously needs another film to try and get that up there. But if this film that's coming out now is good, this guy could end up sitting right on top of the DC universe, definitely for their films.
Oh, absolutely. If they stick to their guns and do what made work for the first one, then they, as you said, they could have a very successful sequel if they play their cards right. But we'll have to see, really. But
The Amber Heard thing will also bring eyes to it as well. Just
yeah, yeah. Well, that's got a dark cloud over it
let's
because
see
of that
what
situation.
the actual film, if anything. And you never know,
Well,
they might kill her. They could kill her off in the film and bring in a different girl.
they could, yeah, they could. We've seen that before, you know. But we'll see, really. But yeah, that's our rating. 9 out of 10. Definitely one of the best DCEU movies to come out of this very clunky mess, shall we say. So that is going to be it from us. We are going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on Aquaman? Did you enjoy it? Do you agree with me and Rex's comments? Do you think it's a 9 out of 10? What's your rating? And is there anything you would have changed? Do you think maybe this should have come before the Justice League stuff? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. Rex, it's been a while, but this was a pleasure as always. And this was a lot of fun talking about this movie. And I'm looking forward to doing some more in the near future with you.
Yeah, man, pleasure as always. And like I said, I'm always positive and I'm always happy to be here. Once again, this is more of a everything wrong with, but really and truthfully, it's going to be like quite a shock at the end when people realize it's actually got a really good rating. It's like, yeah, because once again, this is Warner Brothers and DC, isn't it? We have to talk about all
Yeah.
the other stuff. We have to talk about all the other stuff.
I know.
Wrestling guy. I'm a wrestling guy. Everything else needs to be spoken about before the wrestling that takes place in the ring, and that is exactly what this film is. It is that, and I just love the fact that we can delve through that. And anyone in the comment section can actually tell me. Now, leave it on this. Anyone in the comment section that can actually tell me why this film should have been put after the Justice League. You know, I'll give you because I've had a bit of an issue with somebody in your chat recently. So I'm saying anyone who can actually prove to me or say to me or at least convince me of why. That's your lot's homework. Tell me why this film should have been put where it was put. And if not, tell me why this film was bad as well. Because I don't think that the film is bad. I just think it's in the wrong position. Simple as.
That's it. So take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening. Rex, always a pleasure.
Shout out.
Bye for now, everyone.